Hey everyone, welcome back to the Rollout. I am Linsay Rousseau.
And I'm Genevieve Marie. Hello and welcome.
So after years of anticipation and decades of speculation, Obi-Wan Kenobi, the TV series, is finally here.
We finally got it.
Finally got it. The best thing to come out of the prequels. I know Gen Z is going to argue with me. Gen Alpha is going to argue with me. But us OG Star Wars people still have an issue with the prequels. But I think everyone agrees Ewen MacGregor is a fantastic Obi-Wan Kenobi. So he finally gets his justice.
Right. He gets his moment in the sun, which is, thank you, my cat, for shaking the camera. He gets his moment in the sun, which is really nice. We all have been waiting for this for a really long time.
Yeah.
It feels like I have gone through college and like 10 years of a job, and I feel as old as Obi-Wan Kenobi must be feeling,
right? Like
just...
we literally, since I think episode 3 dropped, all of us have been clamoring for the Obi-Wan spinoff, because we were so bitter about the prequels, but we all loved Ewan MacGregor's Obi-Wan. So we're like, let's just get the show. And then,
just give us the best part of the prequels.
And then, Lucas sells to Disney, and then we get a Disney Plus, and, a couple decades later, we get our TV show. And, whether or not it should have been a movie or a TV show is up for debate from some critics. But we're 3 episodes in.
Right. It's finally here. So honestly, I agree with the TV show format.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people, Disney Plus still randomly has this issue of gaining traction with a lot of steadfast fans as far as, because it's a subscription service, and not so much with the Star Wars stuff. But Marvel, I would argue, Marvel, Pixar, especially Pixar, because they've kind of just been dropping movies on there without any type of theatrical release for years now. And it's hard to get those vehicles traction because of the lack of advertisement, the lack of subscriptions, and it's kind of a weird place in which to put things nowadays, because it exists in a huge pool of other competition, especially when you have streaming services and subscriptions in, premium channels that have been doing this longer and have been putting out shows that are just absolute masterpieces that you could not imagine them being movies.
Right.
They're just in a different genre, they're in a different format now that makes them, it requires the story to be told over a series of episodes because they're so involved.
You need more than 90 minutes, or, well, I guess the average is probably like 2 hours and something now. But you need, because we're getting 6 episodes of Obi-Wan at about 50 minutes an episode. That's almost 6 hours, a little under 6 hours of a story.
Right, exactly. And you can have a script that looks like it would, film out to 6 hours and cut that down into a reasonable 2.5 hour movie.
Right.
You could. There are things, and I think that's kind of the problem with a lot of the Disney shows, is that not a lot of them are very long. Like, it seems like they all get kind of like half a season, like a show that would normally be like 10 or 12 episodes long on any other channel. It turns out they're like, 5, 6, 7 episodes on Disney Plus. And that kind of begs the question of that long or short format. It's like, did you need the longer format?
Right.
And could you have cut the fat out a bit and then gone with like a movie and done a theatrical release?
That was the argument for the latest Mike Myers project on Netflix, is that wouldn't have been an amazing 90-minute movie, but they spread it out, they padded it, and then what would have been an amazing, another classic comedy Mike Myers movie ended up being a bloated TV show that, you know, got a little redundant after a while. And
Yeah.
so yeah, it's trying to find what's the right medium for it. But Obi-Wan's got
Right.
a lot of story to tell.
Or yes, and there isn't.
This is true.
I found like
Because so far we
I
haven't time jumped. We're 3 episodes in and we're in the same time.
right. I think I like a lot of people are saying that it's boring. I personally am a huge fan of things that take their time and
Yeah.
that go slow, that a lot of people will either coin as boring because it's not as action oriented, or I like that. I like things that kind of ruminate and where you can kind of just sit in a vibe and
Right.
in the ambiance of something. And I mean, like Dune, I, of course, like something like that just is like my type of thing.
Right. And when you
Obi-Wan,
have an actor like Ewan MacGregor and
right,
even, you know, the little girl who's playing Leia, like, you know, you have the actors who can hold that up. You know,
right.
if you don't have the talent to be able to support that not so actiony storytelling, then yes, it's going to drag, but that's not the case in this.
No, with Ewan, you can definitely see the story and the history, like just in his eyes and the
Right.
way that he emotes and those little micro emotions that show up on his face. It's really nice. It's a treat to watch. You do feel like you're just jumping back in with the character. He seems very relaxed with the
Hmm.
character, which
Yeah.
I think is, that's a breath of fresh air. That's nice. It's not like you have people who haven't played a character for like 20, 30 years and they're coming back and they're like,
Right.
well, okay,
Right.
let's do a thing. Let's get a paycheck. You can
Right.
tell that this character actually means something to
Yeah.
him, that he actually really enjoys doing this, which uh here tell it was a little bit difficult during the prequels, but I think he's had time to
Yep.
kind of
Settle into things, I guess.
settle into things and be happy with having that role.
Right.
Um but yeah, and you have kind of this, I like to, like, I'm kind of comparing it as I'm watching it, like a side by side. I mean, it's not beat for beat obviously, but it's the same sort of genre slash trope of old man like taking a young
Yeah.
child under their wing and also really fucking up with the young
Well,
child.
and people have made the comparison to Logan, you know, to
Logan,
yeah.
the one that I really compare it to is The Last of Us.
Mhm. Right.
Yeah, because I mean, The Last of Us, you have, I mean, yeah, Logan went into isolation, he went into hiding. The Last of Us, though, there's a lot of shit that Joel really regrets doing. And
Right.
there is a lot of past history in which he has reason not to want to have somebody tagging along with him. Not like in Logan, there wasn't that same motivation, but this one seems like there is a lot more kind of back and forth dynamic between Obi-Wan and Leia,
Yeah.
and that kind of mirrors Joel and Ellie, where there are moments of levity because she's not his daughter. So there is a little bit more breathing room there and a little bit less. I mean,
Right.
there's responsibility, but it's a little bit less like you are a burden that I now feel because you're my daughter, that I have to, deal with you. It's
Right.
more so I'm coming out of the woodworks. I'm coming out of hiding in order to help save this child who, I have kind of a connection with, but it's not like a daughter sort of
No, and they obviously established that because in episode 3 we have the scene where she says, "Are you my real dad?"
Yeah.
And he says, "I wish I was," but he, and we definitely from episode 1 get the sense that he is absolutely seeing Padme in Leia's eyes and the guilt that he feels over that. Yeah.
Right. And I think it's far more interesting to have Obi-Wan have to basically face these uncomfortable truths with, having Leia tagging along and, having to kind of be having to be confronted with his past again. I mean, in Logan doesn't really have to be confronted with his past.
Right.
The child was made without his knowledge or consent. And so the choices that he made never led, the choices that Logan made really didn't have anything to do with the future or the past of his daughter. Whereas Obi-Wan is, every time he looks at Leia, he thinks about what he could have done to have, to keep her mother alive, what he could have done,
to save Anakin. Yeah.
Right.
Because he's still, we see that because, that's obviously Obi-Wan's biggest regret.
Yeah.
Is that he feels like he failed Anakin. He failed as a Jedi. He failed as, obviously Anakin's master. And every time he sees these children, he is, reminded of this guilt. And obviously we haven't seen Luke yet, which, surprise twist for that. We weren't following Luke at all. We're following Leia, which, I think is also some good justice because quite frankly, I'm tired of Luke's story. I'm glad we're getting Leia's story. But he has to just confront that.
Yeah. I mean, as a character, Leia's far more compelling. She has a lot more to do, and she also has a lot more agency, whereas Luke is on a farm in the middle of nowhere.
It does beg the question. It's like, wait a second, Leia gets to be a princess and Luke has to go live on a farm. Like, right. Who decided this was? They
only wanted to adopt one child,
just one, because 2 would be too obvious.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that you actually get to see Leia's perspective. I wonder if they're actually going to bring her force sensitivity into it anywhere.
Right. Mm-hmm.
That's kind of what I've been waiting for. If she's going to face a moment of peril, like she did on the rooftop,
and do something
and act. Speaking of the force, it's interesting to watch and see Obi-Wan be kind of force impotent.
Yeah, because he's had to disconnect from it, obviously since Order 66, he can't bring it. We have these Inquisitors, which have raised some controversy amongst Star Wars fans, but we have these Inquisitors who are obviously Sith. So they are force attuned and are trying to literally feel out the remaining Jedi in the galaxy.
Right. So I find that really interesting. And I think you had mentioned before we started filming, what was it Forbes said about?
What was the headline? Somehow Obi-Wan Kenobi makes a showdown with Darth Vader boring, was the headline from the review of the series, the first 3 episodes on Forbes magazine.
Okay. I have a very strong argument against why that is incorrect.
Yeah.
We have already seen the Obi-Wan Vader fight that we all were expecting at the end of episode 3.
And I'm sure the creators knew that is a pivotal event in Star Wars history that can't be messed with.
Right. And I don't think that they were trying to mess with it. And I don't think that they were trying to either do one better, or I honestly think that this fight needed to be the way that it was, because what I was getting more from this fight, I wasn't even thinking about the episode 3 fight. What I was thinking about was the episode 1 fight, where, not episode, sorry.
The episode 4?
Why am I doing this? Yes, episode 4.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about the episode 4 fight where Obi-Wan does so very little.
Yes.
And, he is, doing what he has to do in the moment to protect the people who are trying to get away.
Yes.
And that's exactly mirrored in this fight as well. The thing that makes this fight so visceral and interesting to me is the fact that Obi-Wan is so disconnected with the Force. He's Force impotent. I know that sounds bad, but
it's accurate.
But it's the truth. Where that's just the term we're going to use. He is now disconnected from the Force. He doesn't know how. He hasn't been fighting for a decade,
at least 10 years. Yeah. And we see he's trying to meditate and connect with Qui-Gon. He's unable to connect to the Force ghost of Qui-Gon. So something's definitely up.
Right. So what makes it so interesting for me is this lack of training. He is older. He is disconnected from the Force. But the most interesting part about it is the fear.
Yeah.
Is the terror of knowing that he's the one who created the galaxy's boogeyman, so to speak, or he blames himself for creating what essentially becomes the galaxy's biggest boogeyman.
Yeah.
And his own personal failure, this is the person that he is the most afraid of, but he faces him anyway, knowing that he is outclassed in every single way.
Yep.
But he still does it because that's his duty. That's his character. It would go against his character to run and hide or try and run with Leia and accidentally make it so that they catch them.
Right.
He wanted to make sure that there was no chance of that.
Right. And I feel like there was a throwback to the original trilogy because, we have the scene in the original trilogy when Luke says, I have to go off on my own because Vader is able to sense him and he's threatening the group by just being there. We had the exact parallel moment here with Obi-Wan knowing Leia's got to go off because, Anakin is sensing me. I am a threat to her now.
Right. It wasn't flashy because it didn't need to be flashy. Right. I think that I would have been bored out of my mind if we had another ting ting ting
epic
zoom zoom epic episode 3 fight.
Yeah. He's not the same Obi-Wan.
Right.
He's not doing those jumps and those flips and no, it's not happening.
He's not going to be doing that stuff. I would be very confused if I saw Vader doing that stuff. Right. Vader is far more withdrawn. He's far more conservative with his movement now because he has to be.
Right. Because he's in this suit.
He
has no actual limbs. They're all mechanical.
Right. And B, he doesn't need to be. He's just that good.
And we see that as he walks through the town.
Right. As he walks through the town,
literally is just snap-necked here, dude up here, dead. I mean, he's just killing people left and right. I mean, he can't break a sweat probably, but if he could, he wouldn't be breaking a sweat.
That hallway scene in Rogue One really just solidifies the fact that he doesn't really have to move that much. He can be very, very precious with his movement, so to speak. And that's even scarier to have the one cut wonder where it's just one draw, one slice, and it's over. The fight's over. He's just that good.
Yeah.
And you could see Vader at any point in time could have just obliterated Obi-Wan, honestly, but he was toying with him.
Yeah.
He wanted him to hurt. And then at the end with the lake of fire thing, I thought that was really interesting and kind of cool that they did that. That was kind of the
he probably could have gone over it, around it, but he didn't.
Right. He didn't. I'm kind of wondering about. I believe that he probably just wants to drag this out. I mean, you see a lot of villains having issue of
Vader would have had no problem going through fire. He literally lives on a volcano planet.
Maybe that's his one fear. He's like, I live next. He's like Batman.
He's
like, I will become
the thing
that I fear. And then he's faced with a lake of fire. And he's like, you know what?
We'll let him go this time.
No, I don't think so. Not today.
Not this time. I'll see you later.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure the idea is that they still want Vader to kind of toy with him. I mean,
yeah,
the dude cut his legs and his arm off and burnt him in a lake of lava.
Yeah, and yet didn't kill him. Couldn't bring himself to kill him.
So I think that Vader feels like he's owed a bit more than just walking across the fire and then cutting him down.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely, and that was obviously, he was creating that fire. I want to say ironically, perhaps that's not the right word, but he wanted it seemed very apparent that he wanted Obi-Wan to suffer the way he suffered.
Right. Also, bigger picture, why did Obi-Wan go out of hiding? Vader let Luke and Leia and Han go for a reason.
Mm-hmm. He
needs to figure out where Obi-Wan is going. What's he doing? Why is he out of hiding?
Yes.
It's been 10 years without a sniff. And now they're face to face. So you gotta, my dude's gotta be like, well, why is that?
Yeah, exactly. He still obviously doesn't know what has happened with his kids. And that's the other thing I'm still unclear about is the Empire, or at least the Inquisitors, know that Leia is important to Ben.
Right.
But do they know who she really is? Do they know why she's important? I mean, that was the one thing that kind of confused me. I was like, we don't, because Obi-Wan doesn't know, Vader doesn't know who Leia is when we meet up with them in episode 4, as they're standing on the Star Cruiser and he blows up Alderaan. He doesn't know that that's his daughter. So that's the only thing that kind of confused me a little bit, is like, how do they know this young princess is important to him?
Right. Unless it's just the random connection to Bail Organa.
Yeah, because Bail obviously was a long time friend of the friends. Mm-hmm. Right. But Leia's a fun little character to have around. Yeah. Some people have said she's the baby Yoda of the series, but she's a little bit more than that. And I personally, I really felt like they did a good job writing this character, because I think it really helps inform the 19-year-old Leia that we meet in episode 4, who isn't afraid to stand up to big, scary monsters, who isn't afraid to pick up a gun and shoot stormtroopers, who isn't afraid to argue with anyone and everyone. And so I'm enjoying that we're getting this side of her at the ripe old age of 8.
Right. I mean, it makes sense. To me, it makes sense because you kind of have an idea. You spend more time with Luke.
Yes.
So you kind of have an idea where his tenacity comes from. You have his backstory, what little of it he gives, and you're able to connect with him and understand him in episode 4. Leia just kind of comes onto the scene. Yeah. And she is who she is. She's already a fully formed character. No need to explain. But I mean, that's because she's not the main character. In this, we get a lot more insight into who she is and, how she came to be.
Yeah.
And I think that's great. I think that the actress who plays her is doing a wonderful job. I like that she is able to one up Obi-Wan, but like she can keep up with him. And a lot of the times she is even she's even a couple steps ahead than he is, especially in episode 3, where she's just like, let's just get a ride. Like,
she's like, I'm taking point. He's like, don't talk. And she's like, hello.
Right. She's like, I don't want to walk. And, and when he slips up with her name, I'm just like, Obi-Wan, really? Like, fucking really, dude?
Big oops. Big oops.
That was such a big oops. I'm just like, Yeah, you've been out of the game for like 10 years, but weren't you a general? Buddy,
Yeah, like this is a espionage 101 here.
unforgivable. Like, but I will say that he was never really good with that shit anyway.
Yeah.
Like, if you
Yeah.
look at him between episodes 1 and 3 and then throughout the Clone Wars, he has a very hard time being inconspicuous.
And
He
he's
definitely
also he's not the most diplomatic either. Like
no.
Qui-Gon was the diplomat. Obi-Wan's the one who's like, they're like, you can't train Anakin, you can't train him. And he's like, no, this was my master's last request. And Yoda's like, you can't do it. And he's like, I'm doing it. So
Obi-Wan is definitely Obi-Wan like rests somewhere between Anakin and Padme when it comes to
yeah.
diplomacy. He will try it one time, and after the one time does not work, he does not go back a second time. He just shoots first, asks questions later, and
Just
you're just
does it.
like, God damn it. I thought you were supposed to be the voice of reason. And
Right.
like, especially in the Clone Wars, especially then. And he's always lecturing people like, oh, we should do it like, let's not get out our guns, or let's not get out our lightsabers for no particular
Right.
reason. And it's like, you do that all the time, man. What are you thinking?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
I'm glad that that carried over into this show.
Yes,
they
absolutely.
they understood Obi-Wan's character. Speaking of other characters, we had mentioned it a little earlier that there's been some controversy in a Star
Controversy.
Wars show. What?
Involving a woman of color?
What?
Yes. So
I'm so tired.
Thank you, trolls sitting in your mother's basement, for once again bringing up controversy where no controversy need be. Yes, the lovely Moses Ingram, who plays Inquisitor Reva, aka the third sister, has been getting some shit on the internet.
It's ridiculous. She's an award-winning actress.
Yeah.
She does like you look at her repertoire, you look what she has done, and
it's just a W.
It is very hard to argue that she has not earned her stripes as an actor.
It's like, if you don't like the writing, get mad at the writers. If you don't like the directing, get mad at the directors. But she is doing the character that was written for her. Like, say what you say. Maybe you don't like the character. Great. You don't like the character. But she, as an actress, as a human being, is doing nothing wrong. Like, I think her performance is exactly what that character was written to be. Whether or not you like that is a different story.
The issue comes in where you have valid criticism that you can give to characters like hers. You have valid criticisms that you can give. But then you have people that just want to be racist in the comments and just want to throw slander and vitriol and all sorts of just nasty things.
I mean, it's Rose Tycho all over again.
It's Rose Tycho all over again. But then you have the same people, then you have a lot of people arguing that valid criticism isn't racist. Disney/Star Wars, like, you're just trying to silence us for trying to give valid criticism, which that is not the conversation that is trying to be had. And so muddling up the comments with, I didn't like her character, I don't understand how that's racist, like, I'm just this, that, the other thing, and getting confused, getting lost in the weeds of, it's not because you are criticizing the writing, the character, or even the performance.
Right.
It's about other people literally being racist. If you're not saying anything racist, that tweet, the couple of tweets that and posts that Star Wars put out, and even MacGregor, he also put in his 2 cents on that. That does not apply to you do not make it about you. Do not feel offended. It's called white fragility for a
Yeah.
reason. Do not be offended when there is that going on. There is racism going on. There is a lot of people having problems with the fact that she's a woman of color in a Star Wars film. Don't confuse that, which is racist, with other people who are just trying to give valid criticism.
Right. Exactly.
And there's a lot of criticism that claims to be valid that is also playing into racist stereotypes, tropes, and it is actually being bigoted and racist. And it's, for some people, it's hard to sift through that. But if you are not doing that, stay out of the conversation, please.
Right. And yeah, it's so disgusting that this is the underbelly of the geek community that Genevieve and I have talked about so many times. This vitriol against women, against people of color, against the queer community. It's just like, dudes, the white cis man had his time. Like, literally centuries of it. Like, come on, there's room for all of us. As the doctor would say, space for all.
Right. Here's the thing, is that people get very precious about things that they feel is their space. And when it opens up to other minority groups, it's not to say that the people occupying that space doesn't have hardships, that they don't have difficulties in their lives. But a lot of the people entering into these groups that are just being accepted nowadays, they also have a whole plethora of other difficulties that are added on top of the bullshit that the world gives us. The world is unfair for everybody.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's more unfair for other groups. And a lot of people think that this invasion, which it's not, it's just opening up a space to other people, think that the invasion of that space is them losing something or them getting it taken away, rather than having opportunities to open up to other ideas and open up to other lines and ways of thinking and better stories, really. A more filled out world that seems more realistic, that mirrors ours a little bit better because it has more people in it that our world has in it.
Yes.
You know?
Because this is a galaxy.
It's a galaxy. First of all, it's a galaxy.
It has aliens. So the fact that it would not have a diverse set of humanoids is insanity.
I didn't see anybody complaining about the one, I want to call him a sister. He's not a sister, he's a brother.
The brother, yeah.
But with the
hat.
The yellow painted, like the greenish yellow guy with the weird hat on, like that thing kind of took me a while to just like get used to seeing him on the screen. I'm just like, that's an interesting design.
Yeah.
We'll get over it.
We'll get over it because it's, fantasy.
It's fantasy. It's Star Wars.
It's all made up, folks. It's all made up.
It's all made up.
Yep.
So I mean, like, because unfortunately, like, I don't want to talk about that bullshit. I don't want to be on here like every other week being like, oh, well, there's a controversy because of the sex, gender, race, whatever it is. It's always something.
It's always.
But that's because every time something new comes out and there is like a modicum of diversity in the things that we talk about, there's always a freaking scandal. There's always like somebody being doxxed on the internet, somebody being chased off of public forums and like having to delete their Facebook and Instagram accounts because fans are like mobbing them.
Toxic.
It's ridiculous. I do not want to talk about these things. Like, I just want to talk about shit that I like.
Yeah, it's like, I just want to enjoy the story of an old Jedi and a young princess. That's
exactly.
all.
Can we just Fuck.
Can we just stop?
But yeah, I mean, like, these conversations are necessary though.
They
Like,
are, because
all
they keep
joking
happening.
aside, they will happen anyway.
Yep.
It's unfortunate, but you know, we just had to address that little bit.
Yeah.
That not even a little bit, it's huge. For
It's
some
huge.
reason,
It's huge.
they blew it way out of the, you know. And I think that I think it's as big as it is because Star Wars on all their social media platforms themselves preemptively came out to defend their cast member, their, you know, their choice of an actress. And they knew, I mean, because they told her, they knew that
after what happened with Rose,
right, that a certain subsect of fans were probably going to come after her because of something as silly as her gender and her race, and that they will wage a war against her, a campaign, if you will, against her, because that's just unfortunately a dark corner of the Star Wars fandom. It is ingrained, unfortunately. It's already woven into the tapestry of the fandom, and it's not going anywhere anytime soon. So we just have to deal with it and make sure that people know that it's not okay.
It's not okay.
It's not okay to send death threats. It's not okay to just throw a racism in the comments. It's just not okay. It's just don't dox people. Don't threaten them.
Yeah. Just stop.
It's really simple.
Just enjoy this fantasy world with its storytelling. And on that note, those were our thoughts on the first 3 episodes of Obi-Wan Kenobi on Disney Plus. New episodes every Wednesday. We'll probably come back at the end of the series and maybe do a wrap up. We'll see.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean,
there's 3 more to go.
3 more to go. There's only 6 in this season. Yeah.
Might as well.
There we go. So happy June, happy Pride Month. And we'll just see what Obi-Wan has in store for us.
Right. So what are we will
roll out and we will
geek with you next week. I was really trying to just press on into the geek with you next week.
Okay, yeah, we can just forget. Yeah, we'll geek with you next week.
I was cut to the chase.
I feel like we need like a little flashy thing, like
fuck. I feel like I should just have a post-it note in the corner. For every single time.
Like the bouncing ball. We'll geek with you next week.
Exactly.
Yeah. But seriously though, guys, let us know your thoughts in the comments. We're always interested to see what you all have to say about the geeky things that we enjoy. Are you loving the show? Are you hating the show? Let us know.
Did you think the fight was boring, or do you agree with me that it wasn't? It needed to be the way
the emotion on Ewan MacGregor's face during that fight. You like,
it needed to be. He was so afraid. I loved it, and
he was afraid. He didn't want to fight. He was fighting a person he thought was dead, who he thought he killed, and so much the anguish.
He knew he had to, and he did it. Leia. And he did it, and that's why. I just love Obi-Wan. I'm gonna watch this thing. I don't know why.
I'm rewatching.
I don't even know why we're reviewing it, because there's a part of me that's just like, I don't care. I just like it.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like, it's that comfy chair, you know? It's like, this is the comfort zone. There's something about Obi-Wan that's just like a comfortable chair.
Yeah. And I don't feel like criticizing the comfortable chair. I mean, I will, because that's, that's what we do.
That's what we do.
At the same time, like a little piece of me, I'm going to lock that away and not bring it to our show. But that little piece of me is just going to be like, I don't give a fuck. It's Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Yeah, exactly.
All right.
All right, everyone. We'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.